We call this meeting to order. This is Beaufort County Public Facilities.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Chairman Rodman, and appreciate it. I told my wife I need a new blue shirt, so hopefully it doesn't make anybody dizzy staring at it on the screen. She's only got so many options when I give her. She can pick any shirt you want as long as it's blue. So, just a few updates, things going on inside the engineering division. On transportation, US 278, we are working through trying to find get the additional scope for the independent traffic going. We had a good coordination meeting with the town of Hilton Head last week and a potential consultant to help us out with that. We're pretty close on what that needs to look like, and hopefully that it hits all the needs between Senator Davis and the town and everybody that's made comments. So we're working towards that. Hopefully that is going to come in for a lot less than $1 million and the 6 to 9 month timeline that was discussed previously when that was introduced. So more to come on that. In capital projects, as far as our pools, everybody's aware of the pool situation and specifically the Buffton pool being closed. We've entered into emergency contract, and issued a notice to proceed with the contract about a week and a half ago on that. The materials have been ordered and should arrive here later in May. Once they arrive, the contractor anticipates about a 12-week construction timeline. So that'll take us through the end of the summer for the Bluffton pool to be updated and ready to be reopened. Public Works, this week is APWA accreditation. So we have an on-site accreditation committee here taking a look at all of our operations and our functions inside Public Works. We're hoping for a good report on that. A lot of work has gone through to prepare for that over the last almost 2 years. We've been working on compiling this and getting ready for accreditation. If successful, we'll be the 5th department, Public Works department in the state to achieve this recognition. So we're super excited about that. And the terminal improvement project at Hilton Head Airport, we were able to put that project out to bid as discussed previously. It went out to bid on May 8th, and bids are due back on June 9th. So our goal is to have a clearer picture of the overall cost and then be in the position to award that project later in the fall and September timeframe. So just a quick update of other projects that don't necessarily always make it for approval, but just kind of some things that are going on inside the engineering division. Well,
thank you for your hard work. And I guess as you put together the contract for the second independent review, that'll come back through. And yes, whatever committee you can get to first in the interest of time is probably going to be okay.
Absolutely. Yes,
even if it's go directly to council. Well, that takes us to item number 8, which is consideration of an ordinance for a sales tax referendum for transportation items, potentially for this November. Why don't you kick that off, give us a little background, and take us where you want to on that.
So appreciate that. And so first of all, in the agenda packets, one thing to notice, there was 3 documents that the TAC committee put together. One is a memo from the chairman, from Dean Moss, and he'll be up here in just a second to present on that. Second just was a 1-pager, basically condensing the project list. And then third is an ordinance. We're trying to put all these documents with a bunch of different people together in short time frame. So there was a slight discrepancy in there. So have an update, and we'll share this to all those that are present. So the memo was the correct version, the project update list, as well as the ordinance were the 2 that needed tweaking. So they all match, and we'll share that on the screen when discussing, as well as send that information out to all after the project. But just a recap of what's been going on and where we are. So County Council commissioned the TAC committee to be established in February. We've been working hard for almost 3 months. Staff worked really hard at the beginning to get everybody moving forward. And then basically, again, Chairman Dean Moss really took charge and walked us through and helped collaborate with all the folks. It was great discussion, and I think y'all will be well represented in what he has in the memo and what Dean will present with you here today. So with that, Dean, if you'll come forward.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the opportunity, members of council. I appreciate it. I'm going to not take you step by step through this memo. I'm just going to indicate that this memo reflects essentially the process we went through. And I will say a couple of things, and then we'll work through the project list. First, I want to thank you for the opportunity to do this. The folks that were appointed by council to help with this were wonderful. They did a great job. A lot of very good thinking went into this. Good attendance from members, both from the municipalities and from council representatives. I will note we did not get but one attendee one time from Yemassee, and no one came from Hardyville. So just bear that in mind as we go through this. The recommendations I'm going to present to you were unanimously adopted by the group. There were no abstentions, there were no objections. There were a few things we had to work out to get there, but as usual, as you all understand, once that was done, there was a strong sense of support for the recommendations in this memo, with one exception. And this is important, and I was asked specifically by members of the committee to make this point. There was not unanimity on when this referendum should be held. Approximately half of the people on the committee wanted it done right now. The problem is too great. We're growing too fast. We've got to do something. And the other half of the committee basically said this is absolutely the wrong time to do it. The economy is lousy. There's inflation. You have a war, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of no agreement. If you look in the memo, what you'll see is the language we agreed to was that the referendum question to be placed upon the ballot at the earliest feasible date. So that's a political connection between the two sides. But anyway, your charge to us was basically to bring you a proposed project list and or categories for the referendum questions. Secondly, the amount of the sales tax to be collected. And thirdly, and or the duration of the sales tax collection period. We are recommending to you a 1% sales tax to be levied at the voted on at the earliest feasible date and then levied to last for 10 years. We project that sales tax over that period of time will produce about $700 million. That's based upon an assumption of the growth rate in the county staying more or less where it is at the same rate, and the tourists population staying also in the same rate. I will point out, we don't have precise detail for this, but the estimates are that between 40 and 50% and possibly more of this sales tax money comes from tourists and visitors to the county. With that as a background, as you know, we basically, we met 10 times over this period of time. And as Jared indicated, a lot of work from county staff. They did a fabulous job. They were very, very much instrumental in making this thing happen. So we looked and came up with two categories of projects. First are a series of specific projects, and I will go through those in a minute. But they are the traditional approach that we've done before. So much for this road improvement, so much for, XYZ trails, so much for fixing this problem over here. And so we went through that and the projects that we came up with effectively are across the county, Northern Beaufort County, Southern Beaufort County, and they address the most significant traffic issues I believe that we have in the county, generally following the guidelines from the LATS study, which is done, that's the local low country area transportation study done by LOCOG. So we stayed pretty close to their priority system. And we are allocating about half the money, about $220 million of projects south of the Broad River, about 115 million north of the Broad River. Second package were a series of what for lack of a better term, I'm going to use the term buckets. It's not the technical term, and we don't call it that in the memo, but it is essentially a collection of activities which create pots of money for council to utilize to deal with specific categories of projects that we may not even understand yet. An example would be resilience. We know that tides are getting higher. We know that things are happening out there. We have a lot of roads in this county that are very low, very close to the level of tides. At some point, we're going to have to raise those roads. Which ones they are, we're not sure. Which ones are most important? Those are decisions that we're going to leave to you and the staff to decide what the priorities are on these kinds of things. But there's those. There's dirt road paving in the rural areas. There's repaving, a pot for repaving roads all over the county, whether they're state roads, local roads, or county roads. There are pots for essentially safety, traffic improvement projects, small projects at intersections, which will make the road safer, make traffic move more quickly through these congested intersections. So there are a series of those. There's also a recommendation to deal with mass transit issues, specifically bus systems, but also ferry discussions in terms of what we might want to do in the future for ferry. We do not have plans for these things yet. So essentially the essence of the priority is we ought to move forward with some serious planning on countywide mass transit plus countywide ferry systems, if that chooses to be something we want to follow up on. So a penny sales tax or a 1% sales tax for 10 years. Let me go through the specific projects. If we could put those up, I'll take everybody through them. So the first project is Highway 170, $80 million, looking at the problem that we're facing from 462, the intersection at 462 down to 278. I know that the county is working on a project to start and kind of expand and get ready to think about that in detail right now. So, but that's top of the list because of the impacts of traffic on that section of the road, and they're just going to get worse. And we know this. Secondly, Highway 46 improvements. It's been a priority for a long time, particularly the area from the traffic circle out to the Jasper County line, but also work from roughly Buckwalter Parkway out to the traffic circle, focusing principally on improving safety and improving the operation of various intersections. We're very, very focused on the notion that this is a scenic highway. It's a designated scenic highway. And so we don't want to do anything on that highway that in any way affects that designation. So this is going to take some thinking and some planning from staff and engineers to figure out the best ways to fix that. We've got $20 million in there for that. Secondly, Bluffton Regional Road Network. There's a lot of projects on the LAT list in the Bluffton area. And many of them are important. Some are less important. Some are on state roads. Some are on city streets, whatever. So we are suggesting that a $40 million be put into that fund and that the town of Bluffton go through their priority list and come back to council with their recommendations for what the priorities are in that section. Fourth, Hilton Head municipal projects, us $40 million there. Again, the town of Hilton Head has done a lot of planning. They have priorities. And so the recommendation again for us is that you work with the town of Hilton Head Island, let them decide what the priorities are for the projects that they have, come back to you with those, and then work out however that business arrangement needs to be between you. 278 project enhancements, we have $40 million in there for that. These basically are improvements to the project on the bridges project, the connection project between Moss Creek and Gumtree Road area. It was generally conceived of as principally enhancements of one kind or another, whether it's landscaping, whatever it is to improve that project and make it go smoother. In Northern Beaufort County, US Highway 21 and 21 business and corridor improvements, $75 million. On Rebo Road, from the bridges over to Paris Island, all the way up to Boundary Street at Town Hall, there is a lot of opportunity to improve that right of way. It's not, I don't think, a question of expanding it as much as it is to make it more efficient, to make it more attractive, to make it a more useful street. I will give you an example since I'm a resident of Port Royal. In about, well, I'd say right now, if you try to get from downtown Port Royal to Ladies Island, you will stand in traffic up all the way back down to Paris Avenue in many cases. people trying to get up and cross that bridge. We've got to fix that problem. It's crazy out there. So that would be also include work on Boundary Street, wrapping around to Carteret Street, which was basically Highway 21 business, coming in and improving that route. Again, in many cases, we're not talking about expanding things here. We're talking about making the existing right-of-ways more efficient and safer. And then finally, on the major projects, Ladies Island corridor improvements, 40 million. As you remember, when we did the 18 bond issue, we had a number in there for the project, those projects in that area, that was woefully insufficient for the amount of expense that will be incurred in developing that. So this adds to that pot and enables that project to expand a little bit. There are lots of places in and around Ladies Island that have in some cases materialized since 18 that really need attention. So those are the major projects. I think the number I had was $325 million allocated to those projects. All right. In addition, as I said, I'm calling them transportation improvement projects. Mass transit, we've got $25 million in there. And as I said, a focus to begin with on planning and figuring out exactly what the capital investments over the long term need to be. There's enough here to do the basics, I think, to get started, but we don't know yet, and we won't know until we do some work on that. Safety, we've got $50 million in there for safety, general safety improvements along roadways and intersections, including pedestrian accommodations. There are plenty of places in this community where it is unsafe to cross a street. You can't, the streets separate parts of the community in such a way that you can't get across. And so this is one of the reasons that these dollars are there, is to figure out how to solve those kinds of problems. I mentioned resilience. There's $20 million in there. Improvements to transportation infrastructure to against flooding, sea level rise, stormwater, drainage issues, things like that we know we're going to have to deal with going forward in this county. Dirt road paving, $50 million. And there are dirt roads all across the county that will need some degree of attention and paving. Resurfacing, $60 million, as I said, all the streets in the county, road resurfacing, preservation of all roadways, state, county, and municipally owned throughout the county. And the goal is to improve the overall pavement condition of roads across the county. Pathways, $50 million. As you remember, in the 18 referendum, we had 10 million in there for that. That proved to be, again, woefully short of just simply doing the list that council approved for that referendum. I believe we were at least $30 million short on that one. In addition, the county has approved now a pathways and pedestrian plan. So that is a feeder into this that we need to look at in terms of the bike and pedestrian plan that you did. We suggest, though, that priorities right now be given to those projects that were promised in the 18 referendum and have not been completed. Transportation technologies, access roads, another 50 million. These are planning, design, right-of-way acquisition, construction of access roads to improve connectivity. If you look in the LATS plan, you'll find new road listed as projects. There's real issues here to make things move more smoothly and connect communities better, and major roads, and get traffic moving in different directions. Addition, we have transportation technologies, which are coming along rapidly, as you can imagine. Smart intersections where the lights are timed based upon actually the line of vehicles at any given intersection or lack thereof. We've all sat at lights when there's nobody coming the other way and we're kind of stuck there waiting for the light to change. The idea here is that this kind of thing gets fixed. And then long-term demand reduction, green belts. In the statute that allows us to do what we're doing, there is a use of these funds for green belts, undefined. But Charleston's experience and the experience in other places in the state indicates that in a general sense, buying property and preserving it is a reasonable expenditure of these funds. We looked at it a little differently. We looked at it essentially as a way to target key properties along these, particularly along these major highways, so that we can essentially start to reduce the traffic loads. Again, complicated process, complicated project, but it's clearly one of those things that could help us in the long way. Again, we recommend there, and I'll get to that, that the Rural and Critical Lands Board that already exists and the way it operates is a good way to start to move forward with this project. We had some additional recommendations for you. County Council should create an oversight committee to help you with this. And I think it should generally be mirrored on the structure of the Transportation Advisory Committee that you established previously. But they should meet every quarter or thereabouts to help you look at these, particularly when we're getting to the funding of these pots of money. You're going to need some help looking over the alternatives and what people want to do, because I can guarantee you there's going to be all kinds of people want to do things. You need somebody to help you with that. And I think that we suggest they make a call each year for these types of projects, and they can come from anybody. They can come from the cities, they can come from the county, they can come from special purpose districts. It just depends. And we set up suggesting priority indexes for these various pots of money. We suggest to you that these big projects should be revenue bonded. The quicker we have these funds and we're in a position, the better off we are. The amount of money, as we all understand, that is available or coming available from the federal government right now is huge. And to the extent we have projects ready to go, we're ready to move on those, it dramatically increases our ability to reach those targets. I believe that we have the ability to add at least another, almost another 100 million, 200 million to the pot, maybe more in terms of making this work. Some people say $1 billion, I don't. Mass transit, I've spoken to this before. We suggest that the existing transportation authority, Palmetto Breeze, be brought to the table and work with them to do the planning necessary in mass transit, so that we integrate what's already out there and what their plans are and what they know we can do with what our long-term plans are. Again, I come back to my first major point. There was disagreement in the committee about when we should do this. So as you give deliberation to these recommendations and the determination of what and how we should proceed, I just want you to be aware of that. So, Mr. Chairman, that's what I have. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Well, thank you for a very comprehensive report.